서단계 3년이면 풍어를 읊는다. 서단계 3년이면 풍어를 읊는다.
Ancient Koreans possessed a deeply unsettling belief that if you tied a common guard dog outside a school courtyard for 3 straight years, that animal would eventually begin to recite high-level classical poetry. To a Western mind, this sounds like an absolute joke, a piece of ridiculous supernatural folklore designed to amuse children. But here's the disturbing part: modern historians, neuroscientists, and psychologists who look back at this ancient proverb realize it was never actually about the dog. It was a direct and cold attack on you, serving as a clinical warning about your brain, your potential for success, and the hidden psychological trap you walk into every single day of your life. The expression is
서단계 3년이면 풍어를 읊는다.
which literally translates to a school dog of 3 years will eventually recite poetry. This single sentence flips the entire Western romance of success completely on its head, directly challenging the deeply ingrained concept of individual willpower. In the West, we are constantly bombarded with the idea that practice makes perfect, and that if we just grind harder, sweat more, and force ourselves to discipline our minds, we can achieve anything. But this ancient Eastern philosophy argues that your conscious willpower is almost entirely a myth, and that human beings are fundamentally fragile, biological mirrors that simply reflect whatever is placed in front of them. It argues that if you want to change your life, your self-control matters far less than the raw, inescapable data of the room you refuse to leave. In fact, it claims that if you lock any living creature inside the right environment, excellence is no longer an act of courage, it becomes an automatic, involuntary biological consequence. Modern neuroscience actually backs this up through the discovery of mirror neurons, proving that our brains are designed to unconsciously copy the behaviors, languages, and emotional frequencies of the people around us just to survive. To understand the terrifying mechanism behind this subconscious programming, we have to look at the historical reality of the Sodang, the ancient private academies of Korea. Every single sunrise, long before the morning mist even cleared from the mountains, a massive and deafening acoustic chaos began inside these small wooden rooms. There were no separate grades, no age divisions, and no individual desks. Instead, 7-year-old children learning basic syllables were crammed into the exact same space as 20-year-old adults studying for grueling state examinations. And reading silently was strictly forbidden in this culture, because the ultimate rule of knowledge was songdug, vocalizing the text at the absolute top of your lungs, while aggressively rocking your upper body back and forth. Every afternoon, the scholars screamed. Every winter, through freezing blizzards, and every summer, in suffocating humidity, they turned complex philosophy and law into a dense, rhythmic, song-like chant for 12 hours straight every single day. And right there in that dirt courtyard, tied to a heavy wooden post by a short iron chain, the guard dog could not escape the physical sound waves of human excellence, continuously slamming into its eardrums. This animal possessed no human intellect, held zero understanding of Confucian philosophy, and spent over 1,000 days doing nothing but eating scraps, dodging the rain and sleeping in the dirt. Yet, after 3 straight years of raw exposure, when a stranger walked past the gate, and the dog stood up to bark, the people in the village froze in absolute shock. It wasn't just a savage animal growl anymore. The dog was perfectly mimicking the exact rhythmic cadence, the specific pauses, and the flowing musical melodies of the scholars inside. The environment had literally rewired the animal's neurological framework through pure, involuntary exposure, downloading the exact pattern of excellence into its primitive nervous system. But here is the problem that should keep you awake tonight. If this proverb is biologically true, then your life right now is already being programmed by a room you might not even notice you're in. Think about how this silent synchronization manifests in modern everyday reality, far outside of ancient classrooms. When individuals with zero formal training suddenly display elite intuition, imagine a brand new assistant hired at a high-end, elite cocktail bar who has a pure liberal arts background and knows absolutely nothing about mixology, liquid density, or flavor profiles. For the first 2 years, because the bar is so exclusive, they are never allowed to touch a single premium bottle, and their job is completely restricted to washing sticky glasses and carrying heavy bags of ice. But every single night for 8 hours straight, their brain involuntarily absorbs thousands of micro data points as they watch how the master bartender subtly controls the energy of a crowded, chaotic room. One night, a massive crisis hits. The bar is packed, and the head bartender suddenly collapses from pure exhaustion, forcing the panicked owner to tell the assistant to step up. The assistant grabs the shaker, and to everyone's absolute horror, they effortlessly command the entire bar, pouring flawless, complex drinks with split-second precision, like a 20-year veteran. Or consider the quiet bench player in the NBA, who barely plays a single minute of primetime basketball all season long, entirely missing out on the fame, the stats, and the shoe contracts. But every single day in practice and every single night on the road, they breathe the exact same air and constantly track the subtle footwork, hip angles, and split-second decisions of elite superstars. When the star player suddenly tears a muscle during the final, high-stakes minute of a playoff elimination game, this bench warmer is forced onto the court under suffocating pressure. Instead of panicking, they smoothly execute a flawless, game-winning play that looks identical to the superstar's signature move, simply because they lived in a room where that level of performance was the baseline standard. This forces us to confront the final, terrifying twist of this ancient Korean proverb. The old masters never wrote this phrase to praise the dog, but rather as a brutal psychological warning about the rooms you refuse to leave. Most people spend their entire lives failing to achieve their highest goals, and they constantly blame their lack of willpower, thinking they are just lazy or unmotivated. They buy self-help books, set early alarms, and scream positive affirmations in the mirror, all while remaining trapped in a physical or digital room, filled with noise, complaints, victim mindsets, and low standards. They don't realize that their brain is an adaptive mirror that cannot turn off its programming mechanism, and that you cannot fight your environment with willpower, because it is a biological impossibility. If you choose to stay in a toxic, mediocre, or lazy room, your mind will silently memorize and replicate that chaos, whether you want it to or not, turning you into the average of the noise around you. You do not need more effort, you do not need more motivation, and you certainly do not need another self-help seminar. Quite simply, you need a better room, because at the end of the day, you are not the glorious master of your own destiny, but a biological machine that is already becoming whatever room you refuse to leave. Look around you tonight at the people you text every day, the content filling your digital feed, and the psychological environment. You wake up in, what kind of room are you sitting in right now? And what kind of melody is it permanently printing onto your mind?